Hey, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Thriving Thoughts. I'm your host, Dr. Sherri, and today we have our second of all time male guest on the show. And today I'm honored to introduce you to my new friend, Coach Keith Howard, but you can affectionately refer to him as Coach Howard. He is an author, a coach, a speaker, and today he's sharing the mic and his time with you to tell you a little bit about how he thrived alone in the face of a $15 million fumble. You heard that right, friends. Without further ado, please lean in and learn from my friend, Coach Howard. Coach Howard, welcome to the show. I'm so honored to have you on today.
Dr. Sherri, I wouldn't want to be any other place than right here.
Are you sure about
maybe a
that?
football field, maybe a football field, but okay. Other than that,
Okay.
all right.
Yes. Thank you for your honesty. Hey, where are we seeing you from today?
The capital of the free world, Washington,
And
D.C.
and the capital of the free world is not feeling so free right now, is it?
A couple weeks ago, I couldn't even go to the grocery store. But today, other than the 21 degrees, it's pretty good.
And because, look, let's just be honest. This is what I have to do a podcast from my home. I have to first make sure that I attend to all the needs of my two lovely hound dogs, right? So that now they're sleeping soundly and you and I can have a nice little chat.
There you go. I don't have any furry friends, so I'm good.
Okay, good. Well, I am just super excited to bring you to the listeners and to the viewers now for season 4. We're also on YouTube, so that's exciting. This season, as you may know, as you and I talked about a little bit, this season is all about thriving alone. And it's about not thriving. I get so miffed, honestly, a little bit about for example, pharmaceutical commercials that use the word thriving, and you see people jumping up and down, and just life is happy. Basically, life is roses, and that's not what thriving means. Thriving means that there is pain, and in that pain, you use it to grow as a person. And so I know that you have a story, Coach Howard, and I wonder if you'd be so brave to share that story with the listeners about a time that you felt like you were alone. And then we'll get to the how you learned to thrive through that later.
You got it. Absolutely, Dr. Sherri. So, yeah, I do have, everybody's got a story. You've got one, I've got one. The listeners have their own, right? Everybody's got a story. Mine is unique in that, two worlds collided for me. My professional life, where I was running what I would like to call an emerging business. So we were approaching the $20 million mark.
Okay.
We had 500 employees. It was a family business. My dad was the chair of our board. I was the CEO. It was great. Everything was great.
So did you start that business from the ground up?
Yeah, I was employee number one. So what happened was my dad before me, who was my predecessor, his company was 34 million. And he sold his company. And then what we did was just rebid the contracts. It was genius on my dad's part. Total genius. And we rebid the contracts and I won them. We did amazing work on 9/11 in support of, we were a security guard company.
Okay.
So you want to talk about right place, right time.
Yeah.
Guarding federal government buildings in DC.
Yeah.
You can't get any better than that.
No.
And so the problem was 2 years later, we couldn't get paid. And there's where the loneliness came in.
Well, loneliness in a lot of ways, because if you can't get paid, there's this entire trickle-down effect, but it affects way more than finances. But I remember, so just as an aside, because I want you to compare this. So when I had my private practice, I actually had like 6 employees. So that pales in comparison to 500. But I do recall a time that was particularly lean, and I remember having a stack of paychecks on my desk for me that I wasn't paying. I wasn't cashing for myself so that I could pay my team members, because there's this huge responsibility of being able to provide for the people who are working alongside of you, but they have people that are relying on them. So again, this trickle down effect. So I can only imagine the loneliness because I remember feeling alone with just 6 employees to feel responsible for. So tell us more about that.
Gladly. Well, I can remember a Thursday night. The paychecks were due Friday at 1 p.m.
Okay.
I logged in about 8:30 that Thursday night. Now the banks are all closed, so whatever your balance is what it is.
That's right.
I was in the negative $883,000.
Now, how does a bank permit you to be, almost $1 million in the negative? I can't wrap my head around that.
Yeah, pretty easy. If you've got government contracts, some banks look at that as cash.
Okay.
The other way is depending on how funded you are from the bank, right? So in my case, I had pretty good working capital
Okay.
for events like this.
Yeah.
Right? Only on this case, though, I had tapped all the way out. Like I was at the bank's legal lending limit, which was $2 million.
Okay.
So I could not legally borrow any more money. So, the checks went out at 1 o'clock on Friday, and I knew that not only were those 500 families, in jeopardy of not getting food on the table, but remember, this was a family business. So at that time, I was in my married life.
Yeah.
My ex-wife was the director of human resources. So not only was she not going to get a paycheck, but our kids' school tuition wasn't going to get paid. And she had to feel all of the grievances from the employees.
Yeah. Oh, on top of
Nightmare.
Yeah.
Right. So I was lonely in the office, and then when I drove home,
You were in the doghouse.
in the doghouse, big time. Yeah. So
So-
that was tough.
Well, tough is a mild word, Coach Howard. I think you're being generous with that. I would say, I would imagine, I want to step back because part of the reason that I have this show is to go to the spaces in our minds that we don't really talk about openly because there are people, including me, including you, including the people watching and listening and other people beyond, who have thoughts and feelings when they go through an experience like this. And it doesn't have to be losing, this huge thing that you're going to describe in more detail for us, but it could be any loss and any sense of fear, any sense of being alone. So we have these common thoughts and experiences, our feelings, these deep, dark emotions that we kind of don't want anybody else to know about. And sometimes if we talk about them, people don't know what to do with them. And so that's why we're bringing them to this show, because we want to talk about them, number one. We want to make a space for that. And number two, we know what to do with them. So if you can take us a little bit deeper into your state of mind and your state of emotion when that was happening, what do you recall being the first emotion or maybe thought to cross your mind at that time?
Disappointment, because I had two things going on. I had, in my professional life, I'm losing the company that basically has the family name on it. So you're talking about letting down my dad, mom, wife, daughters, the disappointment of that. But I also got my dream job of coaching football, high school football. I went back to my high school as a head coach. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe this.
So wait, this was at the same time or this was after?
Same month.
Okay,
Same month.
got it.
Yeah, same month, September 2003. And I lost every single game. And I can remember the disappointment, not only of the players, but I remember the janitor who spoke to me every day. I spoke to him. But he could read in the newspaper that this guy, who some would argue has a multi-million-dollar company, now has nothing.
Yeah.
Also can't win one football game. And I remember saying hello to him, and he didn't say a word. He looked right at me. That disappointment. And it got worse, Dr. Sherri, because what happened was, as the company began to just close, really, the employees, did not slow down. The creditors did not slow down. And one of the lowest moments was I can remember having to have my family get under the bed because there are people right outside the door wanting to be paid. I can remember my reputation just because there were rumors, he stole the money and this is.
Oh, sure, yeah.
My
Everybody's looking for
reputation-
somebody to blame, a scapegoat.
Right. My
Yeah.
reputation went from pillar of the community to scumbag.
So okay, that's what I wanted to ask you. It's like horrible. Pillar of the community to scumbag. I was just thinking about that this morning about how the mighty fall, and your story reminds me of this a little bit, but about how, and I think you're going to get into this, but when we do feel like we go from pillar of the community to scumbag, I don't think it's just that we feel that way. I think sometimes when people no longer find us useful, or perhaps in those moments we discover who our people are and who they're not. And then we can be, in one moment, we can be very elevated, and in the next, in a split second, especially now, you can just be canceled, right? So back then in 2003, you probably felt extraordinarily canceled, just going from this pillar to a scumbag. But I want to back up to this disappointment. So when you say disappointment, what I heard in what you were describing was you were fearing, or you were experiencing, you were interpreting it as other people being disappointed in you. Or when you shared that word disappointment, were you disappointed in yourself?
No, it was the first one.
Okay.
I was not disappointed in myself because, first of all, as an American, we did the right thing. We continued to work until we couldn't work anymore. I was not going to leave those government buildings open, right?
Yeah.
Period, the end. My dad's a war veteran. We weren't doing that. So I was very proud, and I was proud of what the company had accomplished.
Okay.
But I was so disappointed that I had let just everybody, people counted on me for, jobs. Like I said,
Yeah.
family business. If I hired one person in a family, he would refer two more, right? And so I started to notice that while I was spending time all I had to do really was get paid by Homeland Security. If I had gotten paid and made the company whole, we would still be in business today. But I could not get paid, and that's where I was spending all my time. What I didn't realize was my body was breaking down. I would just shake. I never ate. I never ate. And then finally, I went into the darkest depression. I would say late September, I went into my bedroom. I did not come out until February the 2nd of 2004.
You didn't go anywhere.
No.
Now, this was when the
I went to the
company, well, that's good.
That's
This is
it.
when the company was
Closed.
officially closed, not going under, but gone under.
Gone.
So how did you, all right, will you invite us into that room with you
Yes.
for those 4 months that you spent there?
Yeah.
What are
start
some
on-
of the fears that you had during that time?
Well, let me start on September 18th, which was the last official day. September
Okay.
18th, 2003, the Department of Homeland Security found me legally dead because I had to lock the doors, and I had 8,500 square feet of space. There was no one around to help me move furniture, turn in cars. I mean,
Right.
you just don't, over 6 years, you accumulate a lot of assets.
Yes. Yeah.
There's nobody. Gone. So once I finally got the office unloaded and I got inside my house, when I would go out, like I said, my body was breaking down. I was really weak, shaking. And so I just felt more safe inside.
Okay, sure.
And while I was inside, not only did I not come out, but I didn't watch television. I was not on the internet. I watched one television show, which was a 30-minute sitcom.
Mm-hmm.
I watched a soap opera for 30 minutes. I took a shower. I used the bathroom. That's it. From late September, I would say the holidays, I didn't come out. I didn't participate with my kids who were really confused. I mean, they were like
Yeah.
middle age,
Yeah.
middle school grade. They just didn't understand what was going on. And I did not have the energy, the strength to even, I couldn't even help myself.
But you know what's fascinating to me? That you, how everybody's experience of depression is different. I mean, for you to still not make, not have the energy to go out of the house, that's one thing. Not have the energy to go out of the room, that's another. But you took a shower. I mean, you did the
Hmm.
very basics, right, to keep yourself alive. Share with us, I mean, what you clearly had a couple of paths there, because if you stay isolated for too long, those feelings of depression deepen and darken. And so let us in there. What did that happen? Did it get worse for you? Did you ever have a thought that you weren't coming out of that room again?
Absolutely. And I think, for my poor family, you got to remember, I'm living a married life.
Mhm.
Everything's fine, two kids. My wife was like, what in the world? Like, because there was no driving me to a therapist or there was none of that.
Right.
And so I think when she started to see, incredible weight loss and this, she said, we gotta do something extreme here.
Mhm.
And so I did find my way to get, I forgot the name of the pill, but it was some sort of anxiety medicine,
Mhm.
something to kind of get me to relax a little bit.
Yeah.
And that gave a little glimmer of hope,
Mhm.
but it still was so dark coming from who I was.
Yeah.
It was just now you got to remember, I fast forward. I kind of skipped over the football season, but the
Yeah.
football season started in September of 2003, the same time the company closed.
Okay.
For the next 10 weeks, we lost every football game by 30 points. And there were kids being hospitalized. I mean, it was as bad as a football operation could be. And
So did you come out of the house for that?
well, no. So what I did was I would, because it was my first year of coaching, I had
Uh-huh.
to be there for that. Right.
Okay.
But I really couldn't do it. So
Yeah.
I would, reach out to the assistant coaches because quite honestly, I was ill.
Yeah,
I was
sure.
so it just was, oh God. I mean, just going through it right now, I can remember just how, yeah, I did not think I was coming out. There were
Yeah.
days when I was like, you know what, I don't, and I'm a chicken, right? So it's not like I'm gonna be suicidal because I'm a chicken, right? But on the other hand,
But maybe passively so?
right, on the other hand, I was like, I'll never be able to face the world again. So
So did you experience the feeling, would you uh label it a feeling of shame?
shame, guilt.
Mm.
The shame was that I wasn't strong enough to fight it, right? Again, this wasn't like we did anything wrong.
Hmm.
We just couldn't get paid.
Yeah.
We carried the federal government for 2 years. Our payroll was $500,000 every 2 weeks. And between my
Mm.
dad and I, we scrounged up a $500,000 every
Right.
2 weeks.
Right.
So yeah, I didn't, and we were an award-winning company, so but it was just the shame of I'm Coach Howard, right?
So it was a blow to your identity.
Absolutely. I'm like,
Okay, let me
whoa.
yeah, let me ask you this, cuz one of the things that I ask people that I work with, that I ask people sometimes on the show is, if everything was stripped from you, what would be left? Because that is ultimately what has to be worthy of our energy. Not that other things work, that's all very fulfilling, but what cannot be taken from you such that were you to land yourself in a position like the one that you just described, where everything was stripped from you, what's left? And so that's my question to you. What did you discover in that space from September to February? What was left, and what was that kernel, that nugget that allowed you then to come back out of the room in February?
I'd say the first thing was my faith. Um, that never wavered. There was a
Mm.
constant conversation with God that, just it was moment to moment. My prayers weren't for tomorrow. My prayers
Okay.
were for when this prayer is over with, get me through the next 5 minutes.
So that's what I was going to ask you. What were the prayers you were praying?
Yeah, so a lot of it was I was looking for guidance, really. That's what I like.
Hmm.
What am I supposed to be doing? Because I know
Hmm.
I'm supposed to be doing something. I'm not
Yeah.
supposed to just lay here.
Yeah.
But I don't know what to do,
Right.
nor do I have any strength to do it. But if
Yeah.
I knew what it would take to get the strength, I would try. But I
Hmm.
didn't even know. I just was, my hands were in the air.
Yeah.
So it was a constant conversation. So the faith was number one. And I think there is an inspiration that, and everybody can say this, so I'm not saying anything new. But when you can look at your own children,
Mm.
there was an inspiration. Kennedy is my oldest,
Okay.
and Kennedy is really like Keith. She's very sensitive,
Hmm.
and she's just got a bunch of old quirks. She's quirky. She's
Yeah.
just goofy, but we love her.
Yeah.
And then there's Fallon, who's Coach Howard. Very direct, very matter of fact, just kind of in your face. And I'm looking at both of them, kind of not really knowing what to say to Daddy. Is something wrong with Daddy?
Mm.
And I was like, I gotta figure out a way to get up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those were the two drivers.
Okay.
Um, and what's funny, Dr. Sherri, is that once I got out of the room, immediately something happened. I mean, immediately. February 2nd. Here's what I did. I walked out of the bedroom over to the room that had the computer in it.
Uh-huh.
I logged into the computer, and I was looking for my head coach at the University of Pittsburgh, Mike Godfrey, who's my mentor, and I love him.
Hmm.
And I found him. And I found out that he was running a nonprofit for boys without fathers.
Okay.
And boom! I I could have cared less about the company or whatever happened or this
Yeah.
or that. I was ready to go. Just like that.
Just like that. So you had this. So really, so here's what's beautiful about your story, and then I'm going to take you back to the dark once again.
That's
But
good.
the beautiful part here is that so many times, and I call people's attention to this because we believe lies that hold us back in life, not just hold us back, but keep us in a dark, alone space like you were in. And we believe that for example, if you just use physical fitness, well, I just want to get motivated, I just want to be motivated to go do this. And what I tell people all the time is, like, if you're waiting on motivation, you are going to be waiting forever, because motivation comes when you do. And so for you, you did. You got up, you got out of the bed, you left the bedroom, and you did. You went into the room with the computer and you searched for something. And then that created this momentum, right? That just kind of took on a life of its own. And so that to me is one of the biggest lessons that I hear from your story, just from that, is that if you want something to be different, you have to you have to do. You have to take a step.
A step. Yep.
A step.
Yep. And in my case, the lie that I was believing was that I was bad. I'm not.
Mm,
I'm a good guy,
yeah.
right? I'm a good guy. I ran a company. I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
I'm not bad. The other lie that I believed was if I ever come out of this room, it's going to be worse.
Oh, yeah.
Stayed in the room.
Well, that would keep me in the room too.
So, so it took courage, and I don't even know how it kind of happened. I think back then we still had dial-up
Uh-huh.
internet,
I
and
think
that
you're right.
noise was bothering me, and I was just like, "What is going on?" And I was just like, "I got to see what's going on." And I stepped out. I was like, "There's nothing going on. It's my house." I walked
Yeah.
across the hall, and there's the computer. There was no boogeyman out to get me.
Yeah.
And then I logged in. Boom.
But what I think is really cool about that, Coach Howard, is that you said basically you had enough energy to be irritated,
I did.
right? Like
Hmm.
that, and that's powerful to me because I want people to hear that. Like if you're in a place that's um, dark or kind of hopeless, or you're believing these lies that you're a bad person or it's going to be worse on the other side, and there's nothing good that can come from this, like pay attention to those slight feelings. If you're irritable or angry about something, that's good because those feelings are energizing and they're the ones that can propel you to take that a step that you referred to.
Correct.
Yeah.
You nailed it.
So from there, it was just a snowball effect to doing what you wanted to do. I mean, is this like a
Well,
hero to zero, zero to hero story? What is it? What's your big picture lesson for us?
well, first of all, the football team totally turned around. Kids
Mm,
were going to college. We sent 5 kids to the same college in one year. We started winning football games.
mm-hmm.
Now I'm a pillar in the community in a different way. That,
Okay.
hey, this guy came from, remember, he's the security guard company guy. Like,
Yeah.
how does he do it? How does he come out and spend so much time talking to us about don't quit and this and that? So that was
Mm-hmm.
one thing. And then when I went online and I reached out to my old coach, he said, "Hey, look, I can't afford to pay you, but I need somebody to run my nonprofit." He was working for ESPN at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Hey, fly to Texas, fly to Dallas." I didn't even know what I was going for. He said a camp. I had no idea. And fast forward 6 years, you know, I grew that thing from, I'd say, a budget of a $500,000 to 3 million.
Mm.
I was able to share a panel with Laura Bush, which is on YouTube still today.
Okay.
And goodness gracious, I was in the saving souls business.
Mm-hmm.
So these boys in 15 different cities did not have a dad.
Mm.
I was it.
Yeah.
Do you know how rich that is?
Mm. Tell us.
Oh, God. And so what would happen is because now I'm not the pillar in the community, I am nationally recognized
Yeah.
as a nonprofit executive, a leader in mentoring, right?
Mm.
I'm on Capitol Hill 2-3 times a week. I'm on an airplane every 4 days
Mm.
for 6 years. And so the people I would meet, and that's why I always tell people when they ask me, "Oh God," in my book, I call it the $15 million fumble. The
Okay.
government really only owes us 1.27, but the company was worth 15, right?
Right. Right.
So I always tell people, no, I'm richer now than ever because I met you.
Yeah.
And I said that to you when I met you.
Yeah.
I said,
Yeah.
I'm richer now than ever because there was a day when I didn't think I'd ever meet anybody ever again.
Mm. Mm.
But now I'm meeting Dr. Sherri. I'm on her podcast. I don't know who she knows, and so on. And so it just
Right.
it
Right.
just explodes.
Yeah. So I've got a curious and nosy question for you, but I'm not the only one thinking it. So that's the good
Shoot,
news.
I'm
You
transparent as
go
it can get.
back to those 4 months where was everybody? Like I'm thinking about for the person who's thinking
You
like,
want to piss me off right now?
yeah, I do. I do. I'm thinking for the person who may be in this situation and they're like, they feel so alone. And I, that is a part of my soul that can never be stripped from me is this level of compassion for people. And one of the subtleties that God has gifted me with is to be able to look at somebody and go, I think they're lonely. Like that's just that to me is like God's gift to me to be able to discern that. And my heart breaks because I think there have to be people who care about this person. So I'm going back. I know you were living, you were still in your married life. You were with your wife and you were with your kids. But where were your people who like if one of my people was in your position, I'd be like, oh, heck no. I'd be in the bedroom every day until I could get them to commit to taking that step. Like, so where were the people?
Nah, the people were gone.
Mm,
The people were gone, and what was so sad was I had to reach out to some of those people. And, I'm a real prideful guy,
hmm.
but to have to reach out, especially to my business colleagues,
Yeah.
my former employees, I get it, right? But my business colleagues, that's where my reputation lied.
Hmm.
They knew that if nothing else, I had talents and abilities, I had strengths.
Hmm.
You think any of them would want to hire me? The people didn't even want to share space.
Right.
When I'm talking about regular space, pumping gas. And I would say, like, hey, so and so. I
What
want
was
to
your
tease people.
scarlet letter?
Well, yeah, it's Pigpen from the Charlie Brown cartoon. The guy that walks around
Right.
with the cloud, he's smelly guy.
Right.
That was me.
That's horrible. I cannot imagine. I think I might have stayed in my room too for a little while.
I was surprised because my relationships with my high school friends, my college friends, former jobs. I mean, quite honestly, they were even family members. It
Hmm.
was a really tough transaction on my dad and
Yeah.
I. As the chair of our board, he was our investor.
Hmm.
And so you can imagine, you're talking about millions of dollars that has gone up in flames.
Yeah.
I can remember one Easter Sunday. I just felt so bad for my mom. I really did. It just wasn't, yeah, they were gone to answer your question. They all
Okay.
were, they were gone.
Okay. So I've got a few questions, and then we're going to get to what do you do now, and how can people connect with you and learn
You
more
got
about
it.
you. So first question is about the guilt that you mentioned, and we've talked about okay that yeah, there's a lot of people who feel alone, but the message of this podcast is how you can use those experiences of being alone to thrive, which means to grow, flourish, or prosper, right? So how did you take that feeling of guilt, navigate your way through that, and use that to grow as a person?
Well, I'd start back with what I said earlier, which was one of the lies that I believed that I was bad. So I
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
felt guilty, like, oh
Mm-hmm.
God, like I did this. But that really, I wasn't guilty anymore because I hadn't done anything bad. There was nothing to
Right.
be guilty for, you
Right.
know?
And was that just a sudden realization that you had?
Yeah,
Or was
it
that
just,
something after some processing or prayer and
I,
reflection?
I think just getting away from the transaction, getting away
Mm-hmm.
from the day to day trying to survive.
Mm-hmm.
It's going, look, the company's in bankruptcy court. There's nothing for me to do with it, right?
Yeah.
There's Keith, and then there's the entity of the company,
Yeah.
right? So the entity of the company will go through whatever legal proceeding it goes through. But Keith's gonna have to move on and live his life. And there was really no. Once I realized that, like, I'm not bad. What am I guilty of?
Yeah. Yeah.
Guilty of being an award-winning company who employed
Right.
people all over the community?
Mm-hmm.
That's nothing to be guilty of. Actually, I'm the opposite. I'm
Yeah.
very proud of those accomplishments,
Yeah.
and tout them to anyone who wants to listen. And oh, by the way, the former employees did come around in a
Okay.
major way. Once they went to work for other companies, they saw, wow,
Yeah.
this was a great company. So that kind of helped, right? To
Okay.
reinforce that.
Hmm.
I think that
That you weren't bad.
no,
That this was just a thing. That this thing really had nothing to do with you.
right,
Yeah.
that out of my control.
Right.
I think the other thing was once I took a step,
Hmm.
and I know people when they go through breakups and this and that, they talk about like, gosh, it'll never be, the grass is not greener on the other side, da da da.
Hmm.
But I can tell you, this organization, Team Focus, I'll give them a shout out. Working with those young men
Yeah.
who didn't grow up with their dad, and I had my dad,
Hmm.
please. Like, I'm like, come on, who am I to kid? And so,
Right.
like I said, I'm in the saving souls business. And I
Hmm.
loved it.
Yeah.
And so that really helped put that guilt and shame away.
Hmm.
Shame was a little harder
Okay.
because
Yeah.
it still was, you know, you still had cars with logos on it. You still
Yeah.
had, you know, awards on a shelf, and you just like,
Reminders. Constant
yeah,
reminders.
reminders, yeah.
Hmm. So, all right, talking about growth and development, did any of your values change as a result of this experience?
No, no. So I live by 7 core values:
Okay.
discipline, respect, education, achievement, motivation, organization, and networking. It's my signature speech on the speaker circuit. And though it's an acronym for Dream On. And that's just kind of the way I am. I was
Hmm.
that way long before I started in business.
Yeah.
It's just keep dreaming.
Hmm.
Just keep dreaming. Because a lot of them really come true.
Yeah.
Right? I dreamt about one day having headsets and being on a podcast.
Yeah. There
Can't
you
do it,
go.
right? So yeah, so no, they didn't change. I do think I had to go through some growth around repairing my relationships. I think that took some
Mm.
on my part.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think there was that was an opportunity for those that were gone to make me aware of some of the things that I wasn't very good at.
Okay.
I think I was a little self-centered when I had a lot of money in the bank and I'm Mr. Howard who has got a security company. But when I
Okay.
lost all that,
Yeah.
humble pie.
Um, oh, pie. Yes.
I think I
Yes.
still got
So,
some in my teeth.
so now that leads me to my last question for you. How would you say maybe humility is the answer to that, but how would you say that experience and your response, your working through that, your interpretation of that experience, what is the ultimate way that it changed you for the better as a
Oh,
person?
wow. Well, first of all, I don't ask myself why it happened anymore. It was supposed
Okay.
to happen.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
absolutely supposed, every step to include a step.
Yeah.
Every one of those steps was already ordered. I had to go through that.
Yeah.
So I don't have to ask for why anymore. That's a big
Hmm.
help. Um,
Can you finish that though for the people watching and listening? Why did you have to go through that? Why do you believe that?
well, I just think that it's part of my plan,
Okay.
right? So not to be so religious, but Jeremiah 29:11 does talk about the plan for
Hmm.
each and every one of us, and the plan
Hmm.
for good.
Yeah.
It doesn't say when the good's gonna come
Right.
or how to get to the good, but
It
it's
might
for
come in
good.
40 years after the wilderness traveling, right?
It might, but no, I think that that was just part of my plan that was ordained by
Yeah.
a power way higher than me. It's what I had to go through. I was.
Yeah.
Some people are picked for worse than that,
Yeah.
you know. So that's what I call them.
Right.
Right, they are.
Right. Right. Count it
Yeah,
as an honor.
my transaction really is paper, right? It's just
Yeah.
paper. But some people, they get ill, they have accidents, they lose a loved. I mean, they got way worse things going on than my paper transaction.
Yeah. So tell me one more time, what's the name of the nonprofit that you are involved in?
So I'm an advisory board member for a group called Team Focus.
Team Focus.
That's not my day job. My company is Extra Points LLC,
Okay.
and I just love Extra Points because Extra Points is basically it's me. It's me doing the things I like doing.
And tell us about that. What is it?
So it's the first thing we do is we speak all over the country, right?
Okay.
It's me speaking, telling the same story I just told you, and many others.
Yeah.
I'm an author, so I wrote a book. It's right over my head. You can see
I
it
see
there.
it up there.
Yeah.
Very strategically placed, my friend.
There
I
we
like
go.
that.
Extra Points: The Life of My Story. Chapter 5 talks about the $15 million fumble.
Okay.
I'm also a business management consultant. So for those budding entrepreneurs that want to grow a business fast the way I did, let's do it. Let's sit down and talk about it. Then, of course, I've got a podcast, the Extra Points Radio Show.
Okay.
So, I think the number one thing that I like is the coaching, right?
Yeah.
I coach people on the field and off the field.
Yeah.
And that's what I love that.
So who is your optimal audience for speaking engagements, for example?
I love churches and I love academia. So schools from middle school to colleges. And I also love teams, right? So I like talking to sports teams and that. But churches, I do a mean Jeremiah 29:11. I do a mean one. And,
All right, that's good.
Yeah, and then of course the schools. I love going into high schools and colleges.
Okay. And you're going to you're going to give me all the links so that I can make sure, point everybody in that direction. And we can also give a shout out to your Team Focus? Is that
Team
what you
Focus,
said?
yep.
Team
Yep.
Focus.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, the word keeps going out of my head. I'm like, was it Team Faith? Team Focus. All right. So you're going to give us a link to that. So we'll include that in the show notes as well for people to be able to be more curious and potentially participate with that endeavor as well. Coach Howard, as we close out today, I ask every one of my guests the same question, and you are no exception. However, this season we're talking about thriving alone. So I ask you, Coach Howard, if you could leave the listeners and the viewers with one truth that you want them not to forget when this show ends about thriving alone, what would that be?
So Michael Jackson has a song called "You Are Not Alone." Right? I am here with you. And the I is not Michael Jackson. Right? The I is God. All that I went through, I never wavered. I never thought that I was without him. If you can just hold on to that, you're winning.
Yeah.
It may not feel like you're winning, but you are winning.
All right. Church groups, athletic groups, you heard it here first. An amazing, inspiring, humbling journey that my friend Coach Howard had to take, as he describes it. It was part of his plan. Invite Coach Howard to speak to your group now. All you need to do is visit ckhowardlive.com, and the link is in the show notes for you. Listen, friends, if you're in a space right now that maybe you are in a room, maybe you are there and you're having trouble coming out, remember what Coach Howard said. You are really not alone. That if you can hold on to that singular truth that God is with you, that is all you need. Friends, don't forget that if you want weekly inspiration from me through text messages and you get the chance to respond to me, all you need to do is text the word THRIVE, THRIVE, to the number 540-369-2139 to sign up. Please do share this episode with a friend. If you are an Apple Podcasts user, would you please do me the honor of rating the show 5 stars? Yes, that's right. When you rate the show 5 stars, it gets in front of more people who need to hear this message. It gets in front of more people who might be in their room right now needing to hear a message like the one Coach Howard delivered today. Until another episode with me, my friends, this Friday, please remember to speak truth over the lies, and you will thrive in any and every circumstance.